6:30, and I've been reminded that tip-off is at 9 o'clock, so we will be as expeditious as we possibly can. Before I call the meeting to order, I will ask that everyone please silence cell phones or other electronic devices. And I will call this land use planning meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. by formally recognizing that we are meeting on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous people from the beginning. As settlers, we're grateful for the opportunity to be good stewards of this land and thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this place for thousands of years. In particular, we acknowledge the proud heritage of our neighbors from the Alderville First Nation and the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Vink, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that Council approve the June 10th, 2019 planning meeting with the following amendment, that staff report 6.7 MBBR equipment pre-selection becomes the first staff report 6.1. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. That's just so you can get out of here sooner. You understand that, right? Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof. None noted. We have two delegations this evening. The first is from Michael Kellestein. I hope I'm saying your name right, Michael, from Roslyn Drive. Current concerns regarding Roslyn Development Phase 1 completion and review before Phase 2. Is Michael here? Come on up. So, Michael, I'll just let you know that we provide 10 minutes for all delegations, and we'll ask you to, well, we appreciate that as well. So please take a seat. Preston, could you help is it Kellestein?
Yeah, Kellestein.
With Mr. Kellestein with the microphone, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so throughout the spring with the excessive flooding and stuff, I had quite a list of concerns and had dealt with Mr. Phillips on several of them, some satisfactory, some not so, but we were able to get through it. He needed, his solution was an easement on my property, which encroached on the exterior of my home, and that's how this all started. I'm actually pleased to say that working with his engineer was by our home recently with new drawings for a catch basin, new solutions, and we're very satisfied. So that brings my rant to a minimum. However, there are a few other things that do have my concern, and that is the sidewalk in front of my home that's never been installed, which we do have an agreement. My concern with this hold and lifting the hold is that his focus will change, and my driveway will get delayed being paved and other things, and I know that he's made the commitment, but I also know how anxious he is to go forward with Phase 2. So I don't know the procedures. I would like to see a brief hold or something to give him the opportunity to resolve a couple sidewalk issues and curb issues, and that's about it. But as far as the big issue that I did have, which was the drainage and catch basins and easements, they've all been satisfied at this point. So that's really all I have to say, and I'd just like to see Phase 1 completed before Phase 2 started. That's really where it all started.
Thank you, Mr. Kellestein. I'm going to open the floor to members of council if they have any questions with regard to your delegation. So, okay. Members of council? Councillor Rowley?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Kellestein, you just mentioned about having your driveway paved. Is that something?
Well, Stephen and I spoke last fall, and he had offered to pave it last fall, and I said, no, there's no rush. It's late in the season. We just moved to the neighborhood late October, and we've spoken a few times, and it's been pushed back a month. It's been pushed back a couple months, and now it's been pushed back to after this being lifted. And, respectfully so, he's a developer and he wants to build houses. It's not, and that's really my only concern, is that he maintains the commitments that he's made. And that's it in a nutshell.
Councillor LeBlanc?
No, she answered the question.
Do you have a follow-up, Councillor Rowley?
Yes, I
Go
do.
ahead.
So you said he is committed to doing your driveway. I know, like you said, maybe it should have been done at some point, Steve, but I'm assuming that this weather for the last month or two has been pretty tough for anybody to get any kind of
Right,
construction. So,
I
but he-
respect that.
Right, but he is committed to looking after that for you at some point.
By June 18th.
So 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the delegate? Mr. Kelliston, have you been in touch with our planning office to offer these concerns?
Directly or indirectly, yes. The best of my main person that I spoke with on numerous occasions was Patrick Parkinson, and I've had email communication with Daryl Ty.
He's behind you.
And that's about it. And,
Okay, so
and
that-
they're all well aware.
That constitutes our planning department, so to speak. Mr. Ty is our planning consultant, so if you've been in correspondence with him, then he's aware. I just wanted to make sure that those concerns had been sent directly to him, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
No, thank you. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Vink, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that Council receive the delegation from Michael Kellestein of Roslyn Drive. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. And our second delegation is from Jean Pereira, Roslyn Drive, concerns regarding removal of holding provisions.
I also have attachments to give out, pictures.
If you give them to the deputy clerk, he'll somehow get them around to us. Thank you. Jean, did you include them in your delegation package? Yes?
There was one copy, yes, and I need additional copies, so it all.
Okay, so members of council, if you have your package with you, those photos are in your packages, yeah. You don't need to pass them around, we have them in our package. So, Ms. Pereira, same rules apply, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, neighbors, friends, and family. My name is Jean Pereira, and I reside at 14 Roslyn Drive, which is originally a model home located in Roslyn Estates. I have an environmental engineering technologist diploma with a strong civil engineering educational background, inclusive of structural design, land surveying, land use, and drainage. I also have over 10 years of consulting experience working on various projects for public sector, municipal, provincial, and federal governments. I have several concerns with the development area of Roslyn Estates where I reside, and am requesting that Phase 2 and the construction of model homes be delayed until Phase 1 is completed. And I'd like you to look at your photos that you have, because they're a good indicator of the flooding that's happening up there with just light rainfall. The early stages of any development is the lot layouts, drainage, and road design. It is my understanding that the house across the street from where I am located, house number 13, is in the original plans was to be a retention pond and green space. Sometime after the start of the development of the drainage, street, and neighboring lots, this lot was approved to be developed as a house. My question is, was the grade of the existing catch basins and buried drainage systems changed for the flow of water away from a now non-existent retention pond? I have concerns about these drains not being hooked up or graded properly because of the accumulation of water at the end of my driveway, with drains that are clearly not working. Some are only a foot deep, and I don't believe it to be the result of unclean street drains from construction. Is there an actual approved engineer stamp for this design change from a retention pond green space to developed house? In the winter, this area freezes and becomes a huge skating rink with ice accumulation of 4 inches thick spanning the width of the street. This area is where residents, including myself, must cross Roslyn Drive to the sidewalk on the other side of the street to access our mailboxes on a daily basis, and it is extremely dangerous. The curbs and street are also not completed, resulting in unfinished chipped concrete curbs with a rise of 2 to 3 inches above a single layer of asphalt, which is also a tripping hazard. The sidewalks are extremely damaged with holes and cracks. It is unsafe to walk on either the sidewalk or the street, as the street is uneven and full of craters. This past winter, the snowplow hit and broke off a large piece of metal from a clean-out drain that flew onto my front lawn. Under the Ontario Accessibilities Act, it is our right to have safe access to our mailboxes, and I'd like to know how this meets the criteria and why myself and the existing residents of Roslyn Estates have to wait any longer for resolution and completion of Phase 1. It's been 10 years, and the developer has not completed Phase 1. And what motivation will he have to ever complete it if the green light is given for him to proceed and his focus becomes about Phase 2? When I moved into Roslyn Estates, the developer, Mr. Stephen Phillips, told myself that the street would be finished this summer, and I would like to see that he speaks the truth and that the project is finished as he promised myself and many others. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pereira. So I'll open up the floor to members of council who may have questions for you. Any questions from members of council? Councillor Rowley?
Thank you. I drove through the neighborhood today and was looking for the cracks in the sidewalk. The ones that I see are on Crestview. Would those be the responsibility of the municipality, not Roslyn, the developer on Roslyn? When I drove by.
The answer to that question is if it's not within the development, the responsibility would be of the municipality.
Right. Okay, so that answers...
Unless we've come to an agreement with somebody else to take care of it, but that is a question we'd have to find out from staff.
Okay, so those are the cracks that I saw. There were some significant cracks for sure. But like I say, they were on, that's Crestview Street that goes kind of to the east around your corner. Exactly. My other question would be about, at the beginning of Roslyn Drive, there's a sign that says the road is not assumed, so I'm assuming that it's because it's still then under development, right? Under construction.
It's because we haven't assumed the subdivision, so the road is not assumed by the municipality.
Right. So the fact that it just has one single layer of pavement up until this point is that kind of the norm?
It's the norm as long as the place is under development, which it still is because we haven't assumed the subdivision.
Right. Okay. That's it for, I might have...
May I comment on that? So I believe that the sidewalk that you're looking at on the corner of Crestview and Roslyn is part of the new development. That's exactly where I live. That's my lot. And that's our mailboxes there. So up from the corner of Roslyn to the mailboxes on Crestview, I believe it's part of the new development. And, sorry, what's your other comment that you made? Oh, the unassumed road at own risk?
Just asking that it's unassumed because the municipality hasn't looked after it. It's not complete. It's still in a construction phase at this particular.
When we purchased 14 Roslyn, we did do our due diligence and contact the town, and we were told on the phone that the contractor had just not taken down the sign yet.
Is that portion of the subdivision assumed by the municipality?
No, it is not.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from members of council? Councillor Tadman.
So it isn't assumed because it isn't finished, is that correct?
And the developer hasn't asked for us to assume it because the development company isn't finished with the subdivision, so yes.
Yeah. And you also made the comment that there's cracked sidewalks. is, and you seem to think that they're in Crestview.
The ones that I saw when I drove down there today, they're significant cracks.
Yeah, what was raining out too, and maybe if you walked it, because I've heard other people say there is cracks, so I don't know.
So this is the portion where if you have anything to ask the delegate, this is the time to clarify anything she may have said.
I understand that, Mayor, and that's what I'm trying to clarify.
Okay, so do you have a question of the delegation?
She's already heard what I've had to say.
Very well, Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mary.
Hello, you and I already met.
Yes, we have, yeah.
Well, you sent me an email, I went to your property. I did go check for that particular street. The particular street that you and I showed where the manhole was, you showed me the pictures there on that street, it belongs to the town. It doesn't belong to the developer. The one that has the big hole in it, where they put Wonder Woman in it, and they got Help Me Superman and everything that it posted on the website, that sidewalk is still owned by the town. And the manhole that's there that was flooded, I don't know if anybody looked at it, but I think it has silk cloth in it. And over the 10 years, the silk cloth has plugged, and now it's allowing just water just to percolate through instead of just seeping through.
Do you have a question for the delegate?
Yeah. Since you're an engineer, did you check to see if there was silk cloth in those manholes that looked like they were flooded?
There is some remnants of silk cloth, yes.
Okay. On the other side of the street from you, I noticed there's a whole bunch of sidewalk repairs that have been done within the last month and a half. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. There. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Any other questions from members of council? Thank you, Ms. Pereira. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Vink, seconded by Councillor Bateman. The council received the delegation from Jean Pereira of Roslyn Drive. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And Ms. Pereira, if you haven't done so already, would you please submit those questions to Mr. Tai at the planning office? I'm sure he'd appreciate that. Thank you. Now we have moved into the statutory public meeting portion of our meeting, and Mr. Deputy Clerk, I need a motion to enter into the statutory public meeting, and I don't seem to see one. Just hand me the blank form, I'll write it. And could I have a motion that council enter into the statutory public meeting? Moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Bateman. That council enter into the statutory public meeting at 6:49 p.m. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. We have 2 items of business in our statutory public meeting. The purpose of this portion of the public meeting is to request a decision of council on a zoning bylaw amendment for the following application, being Z08 2019 Dorland Farms Limited, part of Lot 29, Concession 5, Part 1 of Plan 39R-13939, Parts 1 and 2 of Plan 39R-3813, less Part 5 of Plan 39R-7339, 876 Old Wooler Road. Mr. Tai, by what method and on what date was notice of this zoning bylaw amendment application given?
Thank you, Your Worship. Notice of the zoning bylaw amendment application was sent by first-class prepaid mail on May 17th to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject property. Notice was also circulated to ministries and agencies as required under the Planning Act, and a sign was erected on the property as well.
Thank you, Mr. Tai. Would you please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and what it would accomplish?
The purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject lands from agricultural exception number 1 to agricultural exception number 33 and rural residential exception number 47 zone. The rezoning will serve to fulfill a condition of consent of application B28, 2018, which was granted by this council on January 14th, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Tai. Does the owner, applicant, or agent wish to make any comments? Where are you? There you are. Thank you, Mr. Dorland. Are there persons present who have questions or comments regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application? Are none noted? Are there any questions or comments regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment from members of council? None noted. And final chance, Mr. Dorland, any final comments? Thank you. Mr. Tai, do you have any final comments?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Does council wish to make a decision on this zoning bylaw amendment? To that end, I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Vink, that council receives the report regarding rezoning application Z08-2019 as prepared by the municipal planning consultant, and that council enacts a bylaw to rezone certain lands located in Part Lot 29, Concession 5, Part 1 of Plan 39R 13939, Parts 1 and 2 of Plan 39R 3813, less Part 5 of Plan 39R 7339, in the municipality of Brighton from agricultural exception number 1 zone to agricultural exception number 33 zone and rural residential exception number 47 zone. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. And the second item in our statutory public meeting is to request a decision of council for a proposed consent for the following application, being B12, 2019, Donna and John, is it Laughlin or Laughlin? Laughlin, being the location being Part Lot 23, Concession 4, 1319, County Road 41. Mr. Tai, by what method and on what date was notice of this consent application?
Notice of the application was sent by first-class prepaid mail on May 24th to all property owners within 60 meters. Notice was also circulated to prescribed ministries and agencies under the Planning Act, and a sign was erected on the property.
Thank you, Mr. Tai. And would you please explain the background regarding this consent application? And if you don't mind, Daryl, could you draw the microphone just a little closer? Thank you.
This consent application is requesting that a portion of the lands be severed to serve as a lot addition to a neighboring farm, which will further accommodate an existing surplus dwelling on a separate lot in order to facilitate the farm consolidation. To summarize, the proposed lot to be severed is 116.4 acres. The resulting enlarged lot is to be 197 acres, and the retained lot, being the residential lot, would be 3.1 acres. And Mr. Mayor, on Thursday or Friday of last week, we received a telephone call from the prospective buyer of the retained lands, of the severed lands, being the large parcel. And apparently there's some confusion, we believe, on the part of the prospective buyer insofar as the application was processed on the basis, in our understanding, there was to be a lot addition. In fact, what we were told on Thursday via telephone is that they would prefer to have the property as a standalone lot. From a municipal planning perspective, either or is supportable. However, the planning report submitted to council was based on a lot addition. As well, the comments received from the Lower Trent Conservation Authority are based on a lot addition. There is some suggestion in the comments received from Lower Trent that if this is to be a standalone lot, they may require a hydrologic evaluation because of the prominence of wetlands. Therefore, staff are proposing to amend the planning recommendation before council this evening to allow a brief deferral in order for us to have the opportunity to clarify.
Thank you, Mr. Tai. Does the owner or applicant wish to make any comments? No, none? Are there persons present who have questions or comments regarding the proposed consent application? There are none noted. Are there any questions or comments from members of council regarding the proposed consent? Councillor Tadman?
Thank you, Mayor. No Sorry, no questions, just that I think on the advice of the planner that we should defer this until it's straightened out which way is the preference, and Laura Trent has their remarks made again because of the wetland.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments? Does the owner or applicant wish to make any final comments? No? Mr. Ty, do you have any final comments?
Nothing further.
And so I'll ask council if they wish me to read a motion of deferral.
Yes.
I just need a head nod, yes? Okay. So the motion written is not a motion of deferral, so I'll ask the mover, Mr. Bateman, and the seconder, Mr. Anderson, if I can amend your motion to defer the consent application.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that this report regarding consent application B12 2019 is prepared by the municipal planning consultants be deferred. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Now we move into planning and development reports. And we are moving 6.7 to the top. Mr. Parkinson, we have read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Nothing, but just to reinforce that all council would be approving tonight is the $30,150 for World Waterworks to provide their shop drawings and process calculations for the MBBR.
Thank you, Mr. Parkinson. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that council receive the report MBBR equipment pre-selection, and further that council pre-select World Waterworks as the supplier of moving bed biofilm reactor equipment for the MBBR wastewater lagoon upgrade project and issue purchase order at this time to World Waterworks for shop drawings and process calculations for $30,150 plus HST. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Our next report is Z09 2019, removal of holding provision, Roslyn Estates subdivision phase 2. Applicant being 1751819 Ontario Incorporated. Mr. Ty, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No further comments.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council receives the report regarding the Roslyn Estates subdivision phase 2 as prepared by the municipal planning consultant, and that council defer enacting a bylaw having the effect of removing the holding provision on the lands pertaining to Roslyn Estates subdivision phase 2. Is there any discussion? Councillor LeBlanc?
Through you, Mayor, to Daryl. When we look at the subdivision, are we treating every subdivision in Brighton the same that have deficiencies?
The subdivision process is consistent from one development to the other, yes.
Is there sufficient holdbacks, through you, Mayor, is there sufficient holdbacks on this subdivision presently to finish the deficiencies?
Through the chair, the information received from the Treasury Department indicates that the municipality continues to hold a letter of credit in the amount of $158,444.
Through you, Mayor, my question was, is this sufficient to finish all the deficiencies that are there that are noted, presently still there? A number of them have already been taking place since December, and are still taking place. Is the $158,000 sufficient to finish all the deficiencies that are there present?
Through the chair, I'd have to, I'm afraid, defer to someone with an engineering background to confirm that.
If we pass this motion of deferral, would we be able to have that information come forward when the report comes back?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Is that sufficient, Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes, it is.
So we'll provide, that information will be provided in an updated report when this comes back to council.
Because my next question was, if it isn't, why isn't there?
So there you go. You can answer that one too. Deputy Mayor, did you have a question? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you. Just reading through the report, Mr. Tai, just some unresolved deficiencies, the curb repairs. Is this kind of the nut that's kind of keeping it from going, that Mr. Phillips just hasn't been kind of finishing up with the street work, the curbs and maybe the pavement, and according to the delegations earlier, that those things will get done. I know, construction weather has not been kind to any of the developers of late.
Through the chair, there's no question that, in the opinion of staff, cleaning up or addressing the outstanding deficiencies in phase one have lagged. However, staff have been working with the developer in an effort to remedy that situation. Again, as the councillor has mentioned, the weather has not cooperated with respect to the nature of the work to be performed, specifically concrete. However, there are a couple of other outstanding items that I believe play into the report before council this evening. First of all, a pre-servicing agreement has not yet been executed. The developer sent the draft agreement to his lawyer. We received the lawyer's review comments. There are some identified requirements to be addressed or corrected in the agreement. We didn't receive those until Thursday morning. So we've had no opportunity to thoroughly review them. It may be necessary that I have to refer those comments to the municipal solicitor, who is the author of the draft agreement. And until such time as a pre-servicing agreement is in place, removal of the hold by council would be contrary to policy direction in your official plan, which directs that all agreements be in place first. Secondly, Lot 21, who spoke to council as a delegation, the owner spoke to council as a delegation earlier, has only recently agreed to accommodate some additional easement, an additional easement for the purpose of correcting drainage. We did not obtain a copy of any confirmation until 4:07 this afternoon that in fact that agreement was in place, and on that basis staff have not had an opportunity to thoroughly review it. We don't know at this point whether or not it's acceptable to the municipality. It may be acceptable to the developer and the property owner. However, staff would require an engineering background to review that proposal and come forward with confirmation that it is agreeable to the municipality.
Thank you, Mr. Tai. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. And thank you, Daryl. Sometimes these decisions are difficult and we really need to just get down to the nuts and bolts, and I appreciate that. Out of curiosity, if we were to defer this, would it be, ready for the next? I know that does depend on the developer. I'm just thinking time-wise, what kind of time frame does it take to get these things done, especially the pre-servicing agreement? Would we have something for the next planning meeting in July, or?
Through the chair, I would fully anticipate there'd be something for the next planning meeting. In fact, depending on the expediency of the developer, there may be an opportunity to bring it back to council sooner than the planning meeting if the clerk's office was amenable to including that on the agenda. The notice that was given for the removal of the hold is actually a notice of intent of council to consider removing the hold not later than this evening. So if it were to come back at a council meeting in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 1 week, no further notification would be required. It would be at the direction of staff.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Councillor LeBlanc?
Through you, Mayor, through Daryl. Tonight I received an email from you saying that if we approve this, we'd have problems with our official plan. I couldn't find that. And I was wondering if you could enlighten me where it was.
Your microphone, Mr. Tai.
Section 8.5, actually subsection 8.5.2, page 194.
Thank you very much. One more question, if I could. We voted on this, which was provisional to remove the holding. Was all this information known when that was brought in front of council for a vote last time?
Through the chair, the issue regarding the adjacent property lot 21 was late breaking in terms of staff's assessment of what really was involved. With regard to the ongoing concrete work, it was indicated to me in early April that the concrete work would be completed, which I was to understand was by the end of April. Now, certainly the weather has played into that. Comments from the Conservation Authority had not been received as of that meeting. However, it was understood that the pre-servicing agreement would come forward to council, but it would not actually be endorsed or signed by the municipality until the Conservation Authority was heard from and their comments addressed. We have since received comments from the Conservation Authority as of last Wednesday, I believe. They were decisively significant in terms of their opinion with regard to stormwater management, and they recommended that the hold not be removed this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Tai. Anything further? Councillor Rowley?
Just a couple, Mayor. Excuse me, as far as Lower Trent, has our peer reviewer reviewed those comments from Lower Trent?
Through the chair, I forwarded the comments to Mr. Keane at Jewel Engineering. No responses have been received.
Okay, thank you. One final question. Your comment about some of this work could be completed and it could come back maybe next week to the council meeting. I guess my concern is too, as for developers trying to move forward, we have one meeting in July, right? And we haven't got those dates set yet. So how much are we holding up? Would it be reasonable to think that between staff and the developers, some of these issues could be met fairly quickly?
Through the chair, next week might be optimistic, but certainly I believe reviewing the calendar of council meetings, I believe the July council meeting is actually July the 17th or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But I would anticipate something coming back to council before then.
So we would have a regular, assuming we pass the motion at the next meeting to change when our meetings are, we would have a regular meeting on or about the 15th, 16th maybe, and then the planning meeting on the 18th or something like 15th, 17th. So in terms of the regular schedule, or what we loosely refer to as the regular schedule, excuse me, in the summer, we're 5 or 6 weeks away from that. Now, if the developer wanted us to hold a special council meeting, they have that opportunity to petition council to do that. If they're willing to pay the costs of that meeting, then we certainly would consider that. Right? Yeah. Is there any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
Thank you. I just had one question, perhaps Daryl or Preston. I just want to wrap my head around clarification because I think Councillor Rowley brought it up. I just want to understand, when you look at page 11 of the one delegation or delegate's photos, I think it's Crestview Street, and we're talking about Roslyn. When you look at the photo, you can see the distinct line where the second layer of asphalt's been down. So have we assumed that? Because the mailboxes were mentioned with an accessibility issue, and if we've assumed that, I would be under the assumption that the mailbox is being federal. Is that something we look after, or does that go to Canada Post and the federal? So I guess we'd have to go back. Have we assumed that portion of the street when you look at that photo?
Through the chair, I would concur with Preston. Roslyn Phase 1 has not been assumed by the municipality.
And with regard to post boxes, that's an agreement made between the Canada Post Corporation and the developer where those are placed, is it not?
And that.
And the municipality.
Through the chair, and that is enshrined in the subdivision agreement.
Yeah. Does that answer or somewhat clarify your question?
Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure that this is on the corner of the delegate's property. It goes to Crestview, so that is considered part of this phase one. So they finished that part of the street, and then they haven't put the second coat down on the other one.
So a portion of Crestview does enter into this subdivision.
Yeah, it ends right at just short of the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, Councillor Tadman?
Well, Crestview was done, what, 4 years ago? So it probably looks like it's new there. I think about 4 years ago, we did that whole street.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah. Anything else? Everyone remember the motion? Go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc.
If we did that 4 years ago, basically somebody should go look at how we're doing our concrete work or our sidewalk, because it's a mess.
We'd perhaps, under the heading of discretion, ask that those comments be made by email to members of staff if you wanted to do that, okay? Yeah. Anything else? All those in favor? Do you remember what you're voting on? Do you want me to read it again? Yeah, well, it's to defer enacting a bylaw that would remove the holding. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Our next report is with regard to Z10 2019, removal of holding provision on Hamilton Woods West Phase 2 subdivision, Gordon Toby Developments. Mr. Ty, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No further comments.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that Council receives the report regarding the Hamilton Woods West Phase 2 subdivision as prepared by the municipal planning consultant, and that Council proceed to enact a bylaw having the effect of removing the holding provision on the subject property as it applies to 3 lots within the Hamilton Woods West Phase 2 subdivision in order to permit the construction of a maximum of 3 model homes. Is there any discussion? These homes as model homes will not be hooked up to any of our services? Water, stormwater, sewer?
Through the chair, they will not be operational, nor will they be occupied until the final plan approval is granted by the municipality.
Thank you. Anything else? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. The next report is applications to amend the Municipality of Brighton official plan. Andrew and Krista Hunt, lands located in parts lot 32 and 33, concession 1, being 300 and 314 Whites Road in Brighton. Mr. Ty, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Nothing further, Your Worship.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that Council receives the report regarding official plan amendment part lots 32 and 33, concession 1, 300 and 314 Whites Road, Municipality of Brighton, as prepared by the municipal planning consultant, and that staff be directed to contact the municipal solicitor in order to explore the prospect of filing an appeal, and that staff be directed to bring back a further report to Council. Is there any discussion? Councillor LeBlanc.
Through you, Chair, to Darrell. I showed you some pictures today from Middle Ridge Road, which is CBM Quarry, registered 1504. There's homes built in the quarry at that location. On checking, there's no record of site conditions on the deed. There's no record of site condition applied to it. They've been built within the 2 or 3 years, those homes. How I found it, they were bringing fill to one of the homes inside the quarry to raise it up. Why is it no, if we're required for record of site condition for Hunts, why weren't we required to do a record of site condition for the quarry on Middle Ridge Road, the CBM quarry there, after it was closed?
Through the chair, Admittedly, I'm not sure I'm able to answer that question. In my experience over 37 years, I've done a considerable amount of agri-resource planning. I've never encountered a record of site condition as a requirement to a land use change.
Which I think is what brings us here.
Yes.
To this stage where we find ourselves asking whether or not we should be filing an appeal against our upper tier planning authority. It's an unfortunate position we find ourselves in, but I think it behooves us to carry forward and seek legal counsel and find out what next steps are so that we can carry on with this planning request. Go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc.
Through you, Chair. There's 8 distinct things that have to take place before record of site conditions are required. I can go through them, and I think you already know what they are, all 8. Does any of them apply here on Hunt's property?
Not to my knowledge, no.
As one more question through you. I talked to the MNR, so this question is going to be a little bit. Last week, with my PGO, my engineer, we gave him a call, and because I wanted the specific question answered by them. Apparently, the land before it was rezoned for aggregate was agricultural. This council, way back then, voted and gave him a permit to extract aggregate. After it was depleted, the property owner, or CBM that owned that quarry, had to rehabilitate the quarry back to sufficient regulations. When it was rehabilitated, 3 months after it was accepted by the MNR, the permit for aggregate extraction is removed. It falls back to agricultural. So in the letter that the planner from the Northumberland County states that it's a rezoning issue or a contamination issue, none of it's there. I do not understand where he's going, do you?
Through the chair, nor do we.
Yeah, so, which again is why we need to perhaps seek an appeal in this regard.
I have one more question.
Oh, last one, okay.
Last one. The thing is, when I approached other councils and I went to Trent Hills, and I went on the hills, on the road, they have a large quarry there. I have the photos that I wanted to share. I also found homes that were built on the quarry in Trent Hills that were built within the last 6 years. When this planner was still there, and he's still there for hours 3 years ago. There's no record of site condition on those houses or on that piece of property, but the permits were given and there was no appeal and none of this. If we allow this to stand, is he trying to change precedent with all the quarries and everything throughout Ontario that I've already passed, like Ottawa's already done it 781 times? Do you think he is? Or does he realize what he's doing?
I don't think Mr. Ty can tell us what the planner at Northumberland County is thinking. I don't think it's fair to ask Mr. Ty to make those assumptions. Yeah. So we'll carry on. I've read the motion. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Bateman?
Just one question. I understand which way we're going, and the motion is whether we want to hire a solicitor. If that's the route we have to go, can we also go the route, because based on what Daryl has said to us, he's never come across this before. So if we go to the appeal and go through the attorney, because we're all here and we're elected to treat our residents' money like it's ours and our own, and we should be wasting money. Do we have an avenue, if we win this appeal, to ask the county to recoup the money we spend on the the lawyers to fight this?
I think there's always that opportunity when you win an appeal, but do keep in mind that the county gets its money from our hip pockets as well.
Well, that's why I want it back. That's why they want it back.
Right. Anything further? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. Our next planning report is a proposed Brighton Retirement Living, Main Street West. Mr. Ty, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No further comments, Your Worship.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that Council receives the report regarding Brighton Retirement Residence as prepared by by the municipal planning consultant. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Our next report is amended applications for an official plan amendment, plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment at 129 Elizabeth Street in Brighton. Mr. Tai, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Nothing further, Your Worship. These reports are intended to simply keep council informed of progress of what we would consider to be more substantive applications.
And we appreciate that. Thank you very much. I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that council receives the report regarding a proposed residential seniors retirement facility and commercial development by Craft Properties as prepared by the municipal planning consultant. Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor.
So I just want to clarify that we're not approving anything tonight. We're just accepting the information you've given us.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Anything further? There you go. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. And our final planning report is a proposed plan of subdivision, Part 1 of Reference Plan 39R 13626, Part Lot 2, Concession 1. Mr. Tai, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Nothing further?
I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that council receives the report regarding the proposed Cardinal View subdivision as prepared by the municipal planning consultant for information. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. We have no unfinished business, so we'll move into bylaws. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council gives this bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to amend Bylaw 140-2002, as amended, otherwise known as the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw of the Municipality of Brighton. And for everyone's information, yep. So we deferred that one. Yep. So, Councillor Rowley, because I have read this into the record, I'm going to ask you to withdraw your motion, if you don't mind.
I will withdraw my motion.
Thank you. Our next bylaw is with regard to Hamilton West Phase 2 subdivision, Gordon Toby Developments. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Blanc. The council gives this bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 140-2002 as amended, otherwise known as the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw of the Municipality of Brighton. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. And the second last bylaw, but final bylaw for consideration is the application to amend zoning bylaw 140-2002, Dorland Farms, Part Lot 29, Concession 5, Part 1 of Plan 39R, 13939, Parts 1 and 2 of Plan 39R 3813, less Part 5 of Plan 39R 7339. I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Rowley. The council gives this bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw under the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, to amend bylaw number 140-2002 as otherwise amended of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton as it applies to certain lands located in Part Lot 29, Concession 5, Part 1 of Plan 39R 13939, Parts 1 and 2 of Plan 39R 3813, less Part 5 of Plan 39R 7339 in the Municipality of Brighton. Is there any discussion? Councillor Tadman.
Yes, am I not correct in saying that our planner, Daryl Tai, had said that there was some new information that we should refer it?
No, that was the consent. This is the rezoning of the Dorland.
Okay, so, but is that clear then that we can go ahead with the zoning without?
It's a different parcel of land.
Oh, this is the Dorland.
This is the Dorland one.
Yeah, okay then.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. And now we find ourselves at question period, where members of the public and/or press may come forward and ask questions of items that appeared on our agenda this evening. Come ahead.
Mr. Mayor, do you support a three-tiered,
Before we go, I'll just ask you to introduce yourself for the record.
I'm sorry, I'm Colleen Gibson. I've lived in Brighton 18 years, came here to retire happily. My question is, Mr. Mayor, do you support a three-tiered retirement complex?
I haven't seen a planning report with regard to a three-tiered retirement complex in our
Do
municipality.
you understand the difference between a retirement residence and a retirement / assisted living / mental or memory care unit?
I do.
Okay, why would you not support the need in Brighton?
I'm sure there is a need in Brighton, but I haven't seen a planning report come forward.
Because we are a retirement community. And as I mentioned, my husband and I came here 18 years ago to retire. I've lost my husband through Alzheimer's. I am a registered nurse, and I really do see the need in a retirement community such as ours. I don't think that people such as me should have to leave Brighton, where we came to retire.
And I hope you can stay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you assist us.
I'll
much needed.
do what I can, but I don't build retirement residents, so we'll have to see what comes forward in our planning reports.
Another question. Do you understand the difference between an experienced company that provides this kind of residence and an inexperienced?
I can only assume that it's the same as anybody with or without experience in any other business.
Okay. Let me add to that. The Sussex Group in Ottawa that are proposing the three-tiered complex have units all over Canada. The Stallwood Woods builder builds home, has no experience in this area at all. I just think there's a huge need in Brighton, having come through what I have, for a three-tiered retirement residence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Grace Pereira, and I live in the Roslyn Estates at 14 Roslyn. And because there seems to be some question as to who is assuming the sidewalk on that portion of Crestview, I do recall it being the sidewalk done by the developer. I also saw the developer take a jackhammer to it and put a hole in it, hence my little piece of artwork with Wonder Woman. The sidewalk is plowed by the municipality, as is the road. So I wondered if within a reasonable amount of time we can figure out who owns that chunk of sidewalk and get it repaired relatively quickly.
I see that both our planner and our Director of Public Works and Infrastructure are here, and they have made some notes, and we'll see where that goes, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from members of the public? Come forward, please.
Hi, Mr. Mayor and everybody else. I'm Brenda Barnes. I live at 21 Roslyn.
Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you. And if I understand correctly, because there was terminology that I haven't understand, is Phase 2 on hold? Is that what we're doing right now?
We have not removed the hold from...
Okay, thank you. Okay, and when Mr. Phillips has completed certain things that needs to be done in the community, I'm hoping that when the hold is off and he is going to do Phase 2, is that we really concentrate on the drainage. This swale that is been proposed to go on the lots, we're 21, and then there's lot 5, and I think there's the 5 houses that are going to be developed there, and the other 4 houses on Roslyn Drive that or on the back of our property, that the swale would be done then, and the catch basin that's been proposed that everybody's going to be looking at, that would be a priority before building houses and et cetera, just to make sure that we all stay safe in our homes and there won't be a problem there.
And I think those were some of the issues noticed in the Lower Trent report that suggests we not move the hold at this point. So the Lower Trent will need to, or we will need to look at their recommendations and discuss that with the developer moving forward. But drainage certainly is a concern.
It's huge.
In many portions of Brighton, shall we say.
Yeah. And I just want to recognize that Stephen Phillips has been working hard with us at 21, and we just hope the progress will continue.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Amen. Any other questions from members of the public? Come forward, please.
Councillor, Mayor. I am Sandra Provo.
Welcome, Sandra.
I live at 15 Roslyn. There's been some concern about the sidewalks. I would also like to ask about the curbing. Who's responsible for the curbing? We have a lot of marks, orange marks, on the curbing that is chipped and cracked and broken. And there's only so much that you can accept in weather. I feel weather has been maybe a factor this year, but not necessarily several years beyond. We've struggled to try and get things done. It's very slow and laborious. I'm not completely satisfied that I know it's being deferred, but I really think there needs to be some delving into this issue, because I'm afraid if they drop the deferral, everything else would get dropped too.
So to answer your question with regard to curbs, I believe it would be the responsibility of the developer, but I'm looking to my friend in Public Works and Infrastructure before we assume it. If we had already assumed it, it would be municipal infrastructure and we'd be responsible for it, but that's not the case in this portion of the development.
Okay. In regards to the sidewalks, the front of our place is a patchwork quilt.
I will ask you whatever you're going to say to make sure you form it into a question for us, okay?
Is it normal to have a patchwork quilt? Our sidewalk is just bits and pieces that little bits have been thrown in as a repair.
And I'm not certain, but some of that may be part of the concern with regard to what needs to be brought up to speed before we would consider moving forward.
Okay. I'm not sure that I'm convinced that proper setup was done on our sidewalks, and I'm afraid there will be more cracking returning very shortly, maybe after one more winter.
I'm confident that our staff are working with the developer to make sure that we aren't inheriting infrastructure that will need to be replaced sooner rather than later.
I would like to add that I am more than anxious to have Phase 2 start, but I want it started correctly when it should be started.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the public?
Good evening, Jean Pereira again. I was wondering about the light standards in the development. At the base of several light posts, there's bare wires, no covers over it. I'm afraid to even let my dog go near it, let alone children walking up the street. It doesn't seem like it's an acceptable safety practice to me. Is this something that council is willing to allow go on in our development?
council doesn't take care of putting wires behind, but I do see our Director of Public Works and Infrastructure making notes, so I suspect he'll be talking to the developer about that. And ladies and gentlemen, any of these concerns, they don't need to come to a council meeting. You can call our planning office or our Public Works office, and they will work with the developer to solve these problems a lot faster than waiting for a council meeting. So just, don't wait to come here, and I understand that there are people who need to get things off their chest, and I get that, but these things can be taken care of a lot quicker through working with staff and the developer.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not trying to bombard people here tonight. I
can assure you I don't feel bombarded.
It's been a long time, and we assumed these things were being addressed by the developer, and then to find out that they're not, and that council is considering removing Schedule H at recommendation not to from Conservation Authority, and several parties that have concern. That concerns me, especially what's gone on historically with Brighton and the sewage plant and that sort of thing. I just hope that things are considered and not just putting off concerns tonight so that you can have another meeting and pass it through.
I'm quite certain that the reason for the deferral tonight is to make sure that the deficiencies we've heard of and the stormwater management plan and all of those things are done properly as we move forward.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ian Grieve, and I live at 68 Sanford. And what I'm concerned about is the effects of the subdivision of Phase 2 of the Roslyn Estates. What is going to be the effect on the people on Sanford that are backing onto that particular job site? And what assurances do we have that they're going to finish the jobs that are supposed to be getting done there now? It's been there 6 months. I don't have any topsoil. I know the weather hasn't been good, but all the companies that do landscaping are doing in business. So there's been some effect to the weather, but there's been time to do it and it hasn't been done. And I'm glad that the right to go ahead has been deferred.
Thank you. So your question is what effect will moving forward? Well, of course we've not removed the hold, so there won't be.
No, yes,
we won't be moving forward at this stage. I would encourage you to be in touch with our planning office and our public works office to see if we can coordinate and work with staff and the developer to help move your piece of property forward.
What assurances?
Well, those assurances you'll need to get from your developer, from the person who built your home.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, take care. Any other questions? Come on up, Michael.
It's Michael Kells, I am back, and I was just wondering, does your planner have a lot of business cards to hand out tonight? I don't know, it popped in my head.
As someone who works in the print industry, I hope he gives them all away for whoever does his business. It's not me, though. Thank you, Mr. Kallenstein. Mr. Ty, I think you're going to be a very popular man, for better or worse. Any other questions? Moving on. Thank you very much. We have no in-camera session this evening. I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that Council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton Council meeting held on June 10th, 2019. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. And finally, I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that the June 10th, 2019 planning meeting adjourn at 7:40 p.m. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. Go Raptors.